maybe you were denied in the past, but today we're kind of moving past that. I've already spoken about those in the first 2 sessions, but today we're going to be in the world of my student is on SSI, and because they're a student, there's a working exclusion that you guys really need to know about. So that's going to be the gist of it. There's going to be some review, which we're going to hop into as soon as I can get my slide to progress. One of the things about Imagine is we really believe that everybody needs to have a job, whatever that is, whatever their interest is, whatever their skill level is, whatever their support level is. Because we have watched over the decades, when somebody gets their first job, second job, 16th job, they still thrive. They really, they're enhancing their social network. Yes, they're earning money, but they're also maturing in so many other different ways that we really, really, really are strong components of employment, including self-employment. What are we going to do today? We're going to talk about Social Security. Social Security to me is a building. We're going to talk about the programs that are under it just as a review. We're going to review what exactly SSI is. We're going to spend a good amount of time talking about how work impacts the SSI check and Medicaid. Then we're going to take a deeper dive into Student Earned Income Exclusion, because I know some of you have probably heard it before. We're going to go deeper than I shared with you in the past, but this is an amazing work incentive, and it's something that parents and teachers and professionals and people on SSI need to share with everybody who they know somebody who's on SSI and is a student. So before I get started, I'm going to take a drink of water. Okay, all right. So what is SSI, or what is Social Security Administration? It is a building, and it is a building, that's a federal building, that offers cash benefits. Not just SSI. We're going to look at what some of the cash benefits are here in a bit. And once you get connected to cash benefits, you're connected to a health insurance such as Medicaid or Medicare, depending on which cash benefit you receive. And then that insurance helps you connect with long-term care services such as the waiver programs. So it's all kind of a domino effect. Social Security gives you cash benefits, which qualify you for health insurance, which qualifies you for services, because some of them are Medicaid only services. And so it's very important that we connect with this cash benefit. Although with Medicaid, there are many different types of Medicaid. So you can get on a waiver program without SSI, some of them, but you have to have Medicaid. Now, here's the one thing I'm going to tell you, and I'll probably tell you again. Oh, you know what I didn't ask for you to do, Danyata, is watch the waiting room in case anybody comes in late.
I'm on it. Got it.
Okay, good girl. She's doing a great job. Okay, so one of the things that you need to know up front is Social Security does not hand out Medicaid. You guys probably know that that's through Health and Human Services, but they do have a computer system that talks to each other. Sometimes we need to make sure that the human has plugged in the right numbers so they talk, but they do talk to each other. So Social Security is a building that offers cash benefits, okay, depending on which category you fall on. Now you'll notice on the left side, I have a big red umbrella with red font, right? Because these are all the programs that are under what's called Title II. Okay, Title II is a section of Social Security that gives out cash benefits when somebody has paid in enough FICA tax. Okay, every time I get a paycheck, I pay in FICA tax. I am paying towards my retirement. When I pay in enough FICA tax, when I earn enough what they call credits, I'm considered an insured worker. Most people need 40 credits. Not going to get deep into that, but to be eligible for retirement. I've been working since I'm 14. Trust me, I have a lot more than 40 credits. I just need to hit that age of retirement, but I expect a check because I'm entitled to it. I paid in FICA. Survivor's benefits say, okay, there was a parent who paid in FICA and became an insured worker. But when they passed away, they had children under the age of 18. So those children will get a check based on the deceased mother's record or father. Okay, but it's not related to disability. They're getting it because their mother passed away. When her children turn 18 or 19, if they're still in school, they lose that check. But if you're 18 and you have a disability, we're going to talk about the disability one on the last red title, okay? But survivor's benefits has nothing to do with disability. It's just that an insured parent passed away. Child in care says the parent passed away, but there was a child under the age of, and I keep wanting to look it up. I want to say it's 6, it might be 10, I don't know. But because there's a young child, then the surviving spouse would get a check until that child exceeds that age. But where we're going to focus is on the first 2 acronyms you see after disability. And don't worry about writing down what they mean. They're later on in the slides. But SSDI stands for Social Security Disability Insurance, and the insured worker is actually your student. They went to work. They paid in FICA tax. They're eligible for a benefit under Title II. CDB stands for Childhood Disability Benefits. Okay, and that is, again, you have a child over the age of 18 who has a disability, and a parent passes away, or a parent retires, or a parent acquires their own disability and goes on disability benefits. Then that adult child could get benefits still off of the parent. Okay. So you could go from a child getting survivor's benefits when you turn 18, you could transition to getting it as an adult child, to where your other siblings who don't have a disability won't get a check. Okay. The main thing I want you to hear is under the umbrella. When I say Title II or I say umbrella, that means it's an entitlement program, because the only way you're getting a cash benefit is someone paid into the system. Okay. And then there's this lonely program to the right called Title 16. We fondly know it as SSI, but to most people's surprise, it does not stand for Social Security Insurance or Social Security Income. It stands for Supplemental Security Income, because no one paid into this program except our tax dollars. So this is a needs-based program, not an entitlement. There has to be limited income and resources. And as I said, it's paid for with our tax dollars. Now, with the umbrella programs, those entitlement programs, how much FICA, how many credits, how much FICA you paid in depends on how big your check will be. So Bill Gates, his retirement check will be bigger than mine. But my check will be bigger than somebody who maybe maintained around a minimum wage job all their life. So a Title II check really varies depending on how much you paid in. But with SSI, because it's needs best, there is a needs best. See, I can't even talk on Saturday. Needs based. The most an SSI check can be is $841. Now you're going to see a little thing there that says over 18 and not paying for rent and food. They automatically take a third off of that check. And we're going to talk about it briefly, but if you want a full explanation of why they would deduct that amount of money and how to prevent it from happening, you need to listen to the first session, because I go into great detail with that. Now with Social Security, with Title II, again, somebody is paid into it. Somebody's paid into the system. I didn't mean to hit the button so fast. And you'll see I didn't talk about disabled widow or widower's benefits. That's another disability way of obtaining a cash payment. But because we're working with transition age youth, I don't really talk about it. Because what affects you is your student going to work and become entitled on their own record, or you retiring acquiring your own disability or passing away, and you have an adult child over the age of 18, they could qualify for benefits. Before I go much further, for those of you who are new, you need to understand that Social Security considers your student an adult on their 18th birthday. Okay, just know that. Doesn't matter what the circumstances are, on their 18th birthday, they are an adult. Now, in Texas, and this is just in Texas, when you qualify for SSI, you immediately get Medicaid, and it's free. Now, if you move to a different state, I often get the question, do I have to reapply for SSI? You do not. SSI is a federal program, but you do have to see what the requirements are for Medicaid, because some states require a spend down before you have access to Medicaid. Some people require an application before you can get Medicaid. But in Texas, it is free. And when you qualify for SSI, you qualify for Medicaid. Now, SSI, remember, supplemental security, right? Because you're given because of limited income and resources. So it's meant for food and shelter. And when I say food, I mean edible food. As you're looking at this icon, you don't see any dish soap in there, or shampoo, or dishwasher detergent. It's edible food and housing, rent, helping pay the mortgage, basic utility bills, gas, water, electric, not your cell phone, not your internet connection, but your basic utilities. Now, I know I'm going to get a lot of questions here, and I'm telling you, I don't have time because we're going to talk about student earned income exclusion. I'm happy to address your questions in the chat room, or I will write about them later. But I've already done this, and if you want to look at number 1 and number 2, but I spent more time in number 2 talking about applying, appealing, I've been denied. This is just a friendly reminder in case you've been here before, or if not, to say, hey, go listen to this session because I only have an hour and a half today, okay? So when you apply, you can apply online or the phone. I don't think applying in person is a thing yet. I'm thinking they're targeting like April, end of March, April. But when you apply, a lot of people apply online and then they call Social Security with questions. You want to make sure that all of your information is current, and that it captures information from everybody who touches your student. And it includes personal letters that discusses your student's worst day. Worst day. Why do I say that? Am I being mean? No, I'm not. When you submit this application, though, they never meet your student. They never meet your student. They read paper and they make a decision. So you need to explain how their disability really is impacting them. I talk about their best day. They'll never get on benefits because we all have good days. But how does their disability impact them the worst? And again, please listen on all of these that I'm going through where I talk about applying and appealing and why you were denied, because I've discussed these already in great detail. Here's where you apply, and here's where you call. And if you were denied before, just here's a tickler. It's probably because your child was under the age of 18. There's something called parent to child deeming. And what that says is, remember, SSI is needs-based, limited income, limited resources. So as long as they're a child under the age of 18, if the parents have income and the parent has resources, Social Security looks at it on an individual basis to say, do you have enough income and resources to take care of your child? You would be denied. Not because your child doesn't have a disability, but because this is needs-based and you have needs-based and you guys have too much income and resources. It happens all the time. It happens all the time. So make sure you gather your information. And when you apply, they're going to even ask to see bank accounts. They're going to ask to see, your resources, that if you're buying a house, you own a house, the house you have, the land it's on, they're going to look at all of this. And then here's the secret. I still want you to listen to number 2 because there's more detail. But if this is your first time listening to me, where it's really important for you to go back is to look at when your child is on SSI because they're under 18, okay? Because when they turn 18, your income and resources no longer matter. So it's a great time to apply, but if they're already on SSI, you still have to reapply because there's different disability definitions. There's a child's definition, and then there's an adult definition. The child's definition of disability talks about how does their disability affect their daily life, right? But when you're an adult, 18, you have to reapply for SSI, even if you've had it all your life, because the adult definition says, yes, okay, so you have a disability and it's expected to last 12 months, but given that, are you able to work? Once you turn 18, everything centers around, but can you work? Okay, so you're going to get a letter and it's going to say you need to reapply for benefits. Your benefits may be terminated. And why would they be terminated? Because your child no longer meets the definition of the child's definition. They're 18 now. They now have to transition to be eligible for the adult disability so they can continue Medicaid. So here's a few things. I'm not going to really spend a whole lot of time reading it to you, but the age 18 redetermination happens sometimes in their 18th year. Get your documentation together just like you did when you applied. Make sure it's vocational based. Make sure it discusses in detail the supports your child needs to be successful, be they were on a SEALS program, the Summer Earn and Learn, if they're doing paid work experience through VR, whatever they're doing, make sure it's documented in regards to how their disability needs to be supported so that they can be successful. Okay. Not going to read the slide to you. There's a little bit more information. There's something called Section 301. Section 301 just simply says, if you are involved with a VR program before we do the age 18 redetermination, which includes an IEP, we will allow you to continue to receive your SSI and Medicaid should we deny you adult SSI. Why would they do that? Because they know the more support they get from a vocational program, the less likely they are to come back on the roll, okay? And so Section 301, again, listen to training number 2. I don't mean to agonize you, but you just have to listen because I only have a limited amount of time. So now I'm moving past the application and age 18 redetermination, and I'm going to take questions here in a minute. So make sure your questions are on there. I am going to defer to listening to the second part, or I will answer your questions in writing if there's a whole bunch of them. Okay. So because SSI is needs-based, I've talked about limited income, but there's also limited resources. And I swear, since Moses brought down the 10 Commandments, the resource limit for an individual has been $2,000, but they don't count everything. Okay. You can have a house and any property that's on the deed. You can have a car of any value. And I'm going to give you a link so that you can look at more resource exclusions. It's in the PowerPoint, but you can never, ever, ever, never, ever, did I say never? Because you can't have $2,000 in your bank account. So even when you're applying, make sure your student does not have $2,000 in their bank account. You can because they're over 18, but he or she cannot have a bank account that has more than $2,000 in it because they'll be automatically denied because they have too many resources. There are ways to set aside money so that you can save for your child without jeopardizing your SSI. One is a PASS plan. It's a document that says, yes, Sandy works at Wendy's and she's on SSI, but Sandy really wants to be a nurse. And so this is a plan that lets you set aside money, not SSI, but you can set aside money, like their wages, any inheritance maybe grandma would have given, just any child support. You can put it in the past to help pay for your student to become whatever they want to be. It's time limited based on what you're doing. And again, there's some recordings, not this year so far, but the rules haven't changed. So I think Carla has an archive. You can listen to the past training. And then there's the special needs trust and an ABLE account. There's always a lot of questions here. So I will tell you, if you Google compare ABLE to special needs trust, the ARC has put out an amazing document that's very easy to read. It's about 3 pages long, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful. So here are your resources. Here's your links to all of those things we just talked about. And now we're getting ready to get into the gist of the program. And that is, I'm on SSI and I'm getting ready to go to work. Before I start, I'm going to stop to say, are there any questions, or do we have a lot of questions?
There's none in the chat right now.
Okay, good. I'm hoping, because I recognize so many names, that you guys are like, Sandy, I've heard this before. Sandy, I've heard this before. And so I'm very thankful for there's no questions, because there are resources. If you cannot find the link, let me know and I will get you the link. But we're now going to transition into the brain thought that now your student is on SSI. Okay, your student is on SSI and they're getting ready to go to work. You need to have a plan. And really, a school plan is great for school, but you really have to have a life plan too, especially when you're going to have your student go to work, because there's so many bells and whistles if they're on benefits of what needs to happen. Now, before I can stress parents out so fast with information. I just can. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So at the end of this PowerPoint, you're going to see a link to a program called Work Incentive Planning and Assistance, acronym WIPA. Okay. And Imagine is free. And we offer individualized services to your student as long as they are actively looking for work or working. So once your student goes to work, just pull up that thing, pull up that link, type in your zip code, and probably Imagine Enterprises will still be your WIPA. We have done this since my team of 6 has done this since 1999. They're very, very vetted. I mean, they are geniuses. I would put them up against anybody in the nation on how much they know. So yes, the school is great. They do amazing things. Yes, VR is great. They do amazing things, but they do their thing. Benefits is not a VR thing. Benefits is not a school thing. Benefits is a very family individualized thing. So you need to know where the resources are to help. And we're free. You can't get better than free. You can't get cheaper than free. So make sure that before your child goes to work, and can I stop here and preface, because I've been doing a lot of parent trainings, weeknights, and this includes summer earn and learn. This includes paid work experience. Any work that your student does that they get paid for, if they're on SSI, we need to get that reported to Social Security, because the Student Earned Income Exclusion needs to be activated. So hopefully that will make sense to you here in a little bit. Okay. So Social Security, first of all, I'm going to hopefully get rid of some myths and misinformation. Social Security, when a person on SSI goes to work, does not count dollar for dollar. Okay. They absolutely don't count dollar for dollar. And it always benefits someone on SSI to go to work because they always have more usable income. Now, one of the things you have to take into consideration is I cannot protect their SNAP benefits. If they're on food stamps, work will affect their SNAP benefits. So just know that going in, because I don't want to lie to you and I don't want to tell you something that's not true. And it's always important to tell Social Security when your student starts working, when they stop working, if they get more hours, if they get more money per hour. And most importantly, you must always report their wages to Social Security by the 6th of the following month. So when I get my February pay stubs, I need to report by the 6th, which actually is tomorrow. So I would need to report by Friday because Sunday is the 6th. So I would have needed to report by yesterday. And is that a hard and fast rule? No, but it is a rule that will help you stay out of overpayment problems. Because when you report late, you're going to have an overpayment because Social Security enters the data at certain times and you just don't want to be in an overpayment situation. Social Security always looks at gross wages before taxes, before all of those deductions are taken. Social Security wants to know what your student Sandy earned that month gross before deductions. So let's look at an example. Here is one where every 2 weeks, I'm just going to say me, happy employee, I go to work and I earn $145 every 2 weeks. That's $290 gross a month. The first thing, first of all, before I say this, I put this in red to remind me that this is a hot item. You must know that when I give you this formula, this is for someone who has SSI only. They don't receive child support. They don't receive a veteran's benefit. They don't receive anything. It's just SSI and they go to work. Okay. I need to put you in that headset. I'm going to take you out of that headset here in a minute because that $85 gets broken up. But what initially happens is you take that $290 I gross that month, you minus 85, you divide by 2. Okay. So $290 minus 85, divide by 2. The only thing that Social Security is going to count of that $290 is $102.05. They do, or 50 cents. They do not count all of the money. They only count $102.50. And we take that amount and we subtract it from the most the SSI check can be in 2022. 2023, that amount's going to change. But this year is $841. We're going to subtract the $102.50. So now the check is $738.50 for SSI. Okay, they still have SSI, they still have Medicaid. Okay. What I like to do, and Social Security doesn't do this, but I do because I want them to see that they have more usable income. So what I do is step 5. Which is what is the amount of your reduced SSI check? $738.50. How much did you gross this month in your salary? $290. Add those two together, that comes up to $1,028.50. That is more money than $841. And before you accountants say, Sandy, it's gross, there's still taxes. Yes, I know, but it's still more than $841. I don't do taxes because I'm not a tax accountant. I kind of know what I would do, but I'm not going to pretend that I do. But it's just, I do step 5 because when I was a job developer and a job coach at the Betty Hardwick Center in Abilene, people would see their SSI check go down and they're just like, I quit. I need that $841 because they didn't see that they're still getting this other check. So you just kind of have to remind them that, you know, you usually have more money when you go to work. There's more work incentives, which you're going to see, but we're not going to talk about them. They were talked about on an earlier, I think session 1, I talked about impairment related work expense. I talked about blind work expense, and I talked about Plan for Achieving Self-Support, acronym PASS. Today, I'm going to stay focused on Student Earned Income Exclusion. Are there any questions so far before I get started, Danietta? Danietta, you're gonna kill me by the end of this training. Oops, she might have had an emergency.
Okay, I'm sorry. I had to go
That's
to the
okay.
restroom. There is a question in the
Okay.
chat, and it kind of goes back, I think, to something you said previously.
Sure.
It says access to Imagine WIPA is that only for students? My kiddo ages out in May. What about no longer student young adults?
No, actually, the WIPA program, I'm going to call it WIPA. We've had it since 1999, and it is for anybody transition age youth through retirement. So yes, as an adult, your child can have access through Imagine. We have many of the counties in the DFW area to offer our WIPA program. However, if you are not, we can maybe get a benefits plan done by VR. If you reach out to me, I can see if I can work that out. But also in the beginning, remember Daniata showed you all those counties, and she said she was trying to figure out, Carla was trying to figure out where to put our sessions, because what's happening is for 60 minutes, if you make an appointment with us, our team, my team of WIPA professionals, we are going to go out in the field. We're going to come to specific cities based on want and need. Parents will have an appointment. There's going to be 4 to 6 of us, so we can do many appointments in a day. You know, we can do well over, 25, 30 appointments in a day. So what you do is once Carla identifies the city and you want an appointment with us, you'll get a flyer on what you need to bring. We'll give you a time and then a location, and then we will meet you. We're going to be in, I don't know, an education service center or somewhere all day long, and parents are just going to come in and out, and that will be free. So, but we cover most of DFW area. Where it gets a little hokey is around the Collin County. That's actually done by a center in Louisiana, in New Orleans, and they're very good though too. They're very good. It's just not us. We're better. Sorry, I just had to kind of say that. So anyhow, but yeah, so there are ways of connecting. And if you're happy, you send me an email if we're not your WIPA, and I can either connect you with Louisiana or see what we can do to help you. Okay. We're getting into the student. Oh, I'm sorry. Were there any other questions? You said that was the only one?
That's the only one for now. And I'm going to drop that link for that form in the chat again.
Okay, that sounds great. That sounds great. Okay, so Student Earned Income Exclusion. Okay, this is a SSI only work incentive. Okay, so people who are on that Title II program that I talked about earlier, they don't get this. All right. So many of you have heard on the news or read in the, well, I don't people read the newspaper anymore, but on the news, hear that Social Security is not going to be around when you retire, right? That big scare factory. And that's not true. I mean, they're going to keep increasing the age that you can retire, but I don't think they're going to go anywhere. When I was born, my retirement age was 65, and now my retirement age is 67 in like 3 months, something like that, because they just keep increasing it. And I mean, that's fine, because I'm going to be 62 and I'm not anywhere near ready to retire. Well, some days maybe, but not today. But so there's a lot of fear that Social Security doesn't have money. And, it is true that there are more people on benefits than that are paying in taxes, either through FICA or other tax. So Social Security has really targeted transition age youth to get work experience while they're students. Because the more exposure to work, the more opportunity they have to find what they're really good at, what they like, what supports they need. where can they thrive? Where can they be the most successful? And let's set that up. If they do that as students, they're less likely to have a big need for Social Security or for SSI. And even if they stay on SSI, if they're working, they're taxpayers. So Social Security wants to really motivate students and families to allow their student to go to work while they're in school. So what this work incentive says is, I got to find my button because I moved my finger. If your student is actively attending high school, college, homeschool, technical school, age 18 plus programs, okay, as long as they are a student under the age of 22, they are eligible for this program. On their 22nd birthday, this program is over. Okay, and that's really sad. We have really been working with Social Security in Congress to try to increase this to 30, because number one, there's a lot of students or a lot of people who go back to school later in life, or it takes a person with a disability maybe longer to get through some maybe college technical school type of programs. So we're really, really trying to increase it, but until we do, on their 22nd birthday, the Student Earned Income Exclusion goes away. Now, Social Security wanted to make this so enticing that everybody will want to do this who qualifies for this program. And by the way, when I said if your student is doing SEAL, the Summer Earn and Learn, or they're doing paid work experience through VR where they get a paycheck for trying work sites, okay, they can still use the Student Earned Income Exclusion. It doesn't have to be a community-based job where they interviewed and got hired, okay? They just have to be getting a paycheck, okay? So we need to report it to Social Security so they get the Student Earned Income Exclusion. Every year that silly Summer Earn and Learn thing is over, Stephenville High School calls me and they're like, we have 16 students who are in trouble with Social Security. Can you fix it? And for the 10th year, I tell them, if you just notify Social Security in advance, I wouldn't have to fix it. So just know that if your student's on SSI and they're doing Summer Earn and Learn, we want to contact Social Security and ask for the Student Earned Income Exclusion. And here's what it does. This is what's so amazing. What it says is, go to work, students, and try to do your best. And when you go to work, we will ignore the up to $2,040 or $2,040 a month. But student, we know that we need you to remain a student and get education, because the more education you have, probably the higher earnings level you're going to have. So we don't want you to just go to work and earn $2,000 a month and let your schooling go. So we're going to put a calendar year cap, January 1st through December 31st. We're going to put an annual cap on it. Once we've ignored this amount, then the Student Earned Income Exclusion is over for that calendar year. They can get it again in January as long as they're under 22, but they will not exclude more than $8,230 this calendar year. Next year, that amount will change. So it's not that, I got a job in March, so I have until next March to use the $8,230. No, from January 1st through December 31st. Now, most students aren't going to earn $2,040. And most parents want to know, what is the threshold my student can earn so that he or she can use the Student Earned Income Exclusion all 12 months. What is the most that they can earn so they never go over that threshold? And that's what's in parentheses. If they have gross wages at or below $685 a month and 83 cents, not only will they get their full paycheck, they will get their full SSI check, because Social Security will have ignored all of their earnings. Okay, so let's look at this. So there's the gross wages again of $290, right? And right under gross wages is the student earned income exclusion. So once you minus $290, there's no countable income. So I get my full check. And then my usable income is $1,131. So the student earned income exclusion is amazing. And plus at $290, this person is going to get it the entire year. So there's no reason that students should not go out and work, but they have to get the student earned income exclusion in place before they do it. So let's talk about how do we get it in place, all right? What does regularly attending school mean? Remember I said they have to be a student regularly attending. So what does that mean? Well, for a college or university, it means at least 8 hours a week. It means at least 12 hours a week if you're in 7th through 12th grade. But if there is a situation that's beyond your control, which I'm going to give you an example of, such as you get very sick, right? Or something happens, you can negotiate a decrease in hours and still be eligible. And so I think I have an example, okay? So let's say Gemma is a student, right? And she has a physical disability. She can't drive. She lives, far in the country, and she attends a vocational school once a week because transportation's only available. That's the only day she can get there. There is no bus. There is no Uber that will go there. And this is when she can get a ride from maybe a neighbor down the street because mom and dad don't drive. It's beyond her control. It's beyond her control, but she's considered to be regularly attending. So Social Security will look at the circumstance and still award this student less hours to still be eligible. Okay. Here's another example. I'm sorry, I have to go back up to see if I missed something. No, I didn't. Okay. The other thing too, and this is important, especially if you have kids in the 18 plus program, okay? We need to make sure that their IEP, all IEPs, but especially your ARDS, whatever you're doing, but especially for the age 18 group, they need to explain how they're doing courses that are considered vocational training, okay? Because in this situation, let's say we have David and he's 17 and he goes to the public school, but he's in a class where they teach him more activities of daily living, brushing his teeth, combing his hair, getting dressed, whatever it is. He would not qualify for a student earned income exclusion because he's not doing anything that's based on getting ready for work. That's why this ARD or IEP, whatever documentation they do on your student, it has to be training classes that can be clearly identified by Social Security that could lead them for paid employment. And you can argue, teaching my child to comb their hair, dress properly, it all does. Social Security will not do it. I have tried for many, many years. It doesn't work. It has to be training. So let's look at an example of kind of a mixture of that. So this is Lavea, and she's a 21-year-old student who attends the Austin School for the Blind. And she has 20 hours a week of school. 15 of them are used for teaching office skills, and 5 hours are for personal grooming. So in her case, Social Security will take the 15 hours because that meets the criteria and ignore the other 5 hours because they don't need them. I'm working with, I take a drink here. I'm working with two parents right now whose children are on the age 18 or age 18 plus programs. And Social Security is really fighting them in this one Social Security office in the Houston area. And I just want to go down there saying, oh, here's your rules, stop it. But you just want to make sure, again, I'm going to beat the dead horse because I want you guys to get this, make sure that their program is leaning towards the possibility of work, okay? So once I get through all of these, this is what it means to be a student. I am going to stop and take questions, so probably in the next few slides. A person may also qualify who's homeschooled. Again, here's the criteria: 12 hours a week for 7 through 12, but you have to be following the homeschool laws of that state. Now, I've only dealt with a handful of homeschoolers, and they were all after COVID. And so they were following the homeschool laws of Texas. But you can't just say, I'm pulling my kid and I'm homeschooling. There has to be a plan, and there has to be some instruction and monitoring. Sorry, excuse me, my lips don't want to work on Saturday, of that homeschooled program. You know, and then I think this is the last one before I take questions. So if you have questions, oh no, there's an online one still coming up. So these are just all the different students. There are also homebound students. Maybe because of their disability, they're no longer able to go to school and be present there for whatever the circumstances are. You know, we had a lot of homebound students during COVID, right? But, you know, they were kind of grandfathered in because they were still being taught by their teachers. They still had the same studies. They just were doing virtually. But, you know, they have the same thing. But you get a homebound when you're forced to no longer attend school because they just cannot physically do it. Okay, or there's other circumstances. And when I say other circumstances, it's so individualized. If there is a reason that your child absolutely cannot go to school, you just have to be able to present that to Social Security and make sure that a tutor from the school or a homeschool is coming in to monitor this, to monitor or to teach your student. And then there's online. I'm not going to go into this too deep because everybody knows what an online school is, what the features are. You know, you got the virtual classrooms, you can get a hold of the teacher, they download the material, and it's the same thing. It's the same number of hours. And again, you have to make sure any online student is following the online criteria for that state. You know, when my granddaughter was really struggling, the principal pulled me aside to say, you know, Texas has a free online school. And I did check into it, but, you know, she has a lot of anxiety and stuff. And I wanted her to still get out there, you know, be around people, be around friends. So I didn't do it. But, you know, this would be an option for me. If she were on SSI, I could also allow her to try to work. So with that, I'm going to stop and see if there's any questions about student earned income exclusion.
There's none in the chat right now.
Wow, you guys are quiet. We might get out of here early. I think the first session I had 8 pages of questions to answer. And the second one, I haven't seen the questions yet, but I bet there'll be at least 4. So you guys are quiet, or maybe just you're catching on, or you rolled your eyes back and I put you in a coma. So we kind of talked about what does it mean to regularly attend. You know, there's the basic schools that we think of, but there's home schools, homebound, online. You know, there's all these different schools, and depending on the school, how much and how you participate was specified on those PowerPoints, because they all have a little different nuance. And then we talked about what your school report needs to say to make sure that they're really leaning in towards classes that will lead to paid employment. So now the next question is, how does Social Security know my child is a student? Just because my child is 17, how does Social Security still know they're a student? Well, with SSI, because it's needs-based, usually yearly or somewhere within a year, Social Security will, you know, send you something to, or do a phone interview with you to kind of reconcile their accounts. You know, is Sandy still living with you? Has Sandy started working? Has Sandy stopped working? How much money is in Sandy's account? Because what they're doing is they're saying, okay, you know, where are we at right now? So I know how much her check should be. Okay. During that time, you could say, well, this year, you know, Sandy, next month, she's going to start working at McDonald's. And I need to ask for student earned income exclusion. And these are the verifications that you need. actually imagine, I'm going to make this more simple. Imagine put together a letter and it simply says, my name is Sandy Smith. My birthday is this. My social security number is this. I receive SSI. I am going to start working at McDonald's on this day. I'm going to work this many hours at this rate of pay, and I get paid every other Friday. I am a student at Stephenville High School. My counselor's name is Sandy Smith, and here's her phone number. Okay, and here's the name of my manager at McDonald's, and here's his phone number. And here's a copy of my student ID. Okay, that letter and that copy of the student ID usually will get us the student earned income exclusion. The only difference is those age 18 plus programs. If your student has walked the stage but went into an age 18 program, I am having fits with this one Social Security office. Hopefully Dallas is better, but we just need to make sure that their plans really show that they are taking coursework still to lead them towards employment. I know a lot of times in the 18 plus program, they just get them out there in jobs, but there needs to be some instruction, and that instruction needs to be on paper. Please help me get students who are in an 18 plus program this wonderful benefit. This one father is just beside himself, but we're still in the fight. So are there any questions on how to notify Social Security?
There's none in the chat right now.
Okay. All right. So the other question, I try to base my slides based on what questions you're going to ask me. Okay. And one of the questions is, well, what about summer? Because they're not students. Well, what their rules say is as long as your student is under 22, they were active when the school year ended, and they have every intent to go back to school when school resumes in May, you can have a summer job and still use the student earned income exclusion. So an interruption does not stop the student earned income exclusion. It's not a school year benefit, as long as you plan to go back. Now, when school is interrupted, or when you graduate from school, or you simply stop attending school, and you don't intend to resume school, the student earned income exclusion only applies through the last month that you were in school. Then it will stop. Okay. When your intent changes, it's like, no, I'm not going back to college. That wasn't for me. I tried it a couple semesters. It's not for me. Then your student earned income exclusion stops, even though you're working, because you're no longer a student. So here's an example. Cora is a 19-year-old student who's enrolled in vocational courses. In June of 2021, she completed half of those courses and reported her intent to go back to school to finish the second half in August. In October, Cora contacted the Social Security office to let them know she didn't return to school. Well, Cora's student earned income exclusion stopped in August, even though she told them in October. She was no longer eligible for it in August, because that's when her intent changed. That's when she made the decision not to go back to school. So any questions on that? Any questions about student earned income exclusion as a whole? Because we're actually in the wrap-up stage now. We're going to talk about a few things. We're going to look at some, well, not wrap-up stage, that's a little dramatic. We're going to start going into the calculations of it now. So I want to make sure that you understand all of the nuances of what does regularly attending mean? How do you let Social Security know? When does it stop? So do we have any questions, Daniela?
No questions.
Okay. All right. Well, we're just going to keep plugging along. Now, parents, if your child's on SSI and they're about to go to work, I really need you to pay attention to this because this is super duper important. Remember in the beginning, I said you have to report by the 6th of the following month. So let's have that make sense. So I work all of February. I report March 6th, what my February wages were, and my April SSI check will be adjusted based on what I did in March. In other words, there's a 2-month delay, okay? So in this example on this slide, it says I start working in January, right? So I work in January, report February 6th, March check reflects what I did in January. Those January and February SSI checks will not be adjusted. They will still be at the full amount. My March check will be adjusted, but it's based on what I did 2 months earlier. So every check that you get from Social Security reflects what you've done 2 months earlier. So for January and February, I'm getting my full SSI check. I am getting my full work check, and it's not an overpayment. I am rolling in the dough, right? Full SSI check, full work check. Who cares? Okay. But here's what you do need to know. And these are for people who aren't students, because obviously we just talked about students, but just in general, if your child doesn't qualify for student, then this is very important to them. So if your child doesn't get student earned income exclusion, when they stop working in January, for whatever reason, they quit, they got laid off, their disability got in the way, so they had to stop. Even if they reduce their hours, because if they stop working in January, it's going to be no work check and no SSI check until March when the SSI check comes back. So you kind of have feast when you start working, but there's famine when you stop. There are ways of getting emergency checks from the local office if you absolutely cannot pay your rent during these 2 months. They will pay you in advance. They don't give you extra money. They just kind of front you money. But, you know, like those payday loans, once you start getting front money, you never really get caught up. So you want to plan when your student starts working that they are saving some of their money, because should something happen, and we never know what's going to happen to our job. None of us have job security. We never know when that might change. And then I've got 2 hard months. So please remember, when your student no longer is a student and cannot claim the student earned income exclusion, that in the general population where there is going to be a reduction in the SSI check, there is a 2-month delay on both sides. So I want us to take a brain break here, because I'm going to start doing numbers. I've given you a lot of information. I want you to be fresh. So I'm going to stop to see again if there's any questions. And if not, we're just going to kind of be still.
There's a question in the chat.
There is no or one?
There is one.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, with the March 6th, with March 6th being a Sunday, is the mandatory reporting Friday the 5th or Monday the 7th? Asking because we are still waiting for paid work experience paycheck number 1, but the hours were worked in February. Is it when?
Yeah.
Do you want to answer that, and I'll chunk the rest?
Yeah, sure. Report it when you get it, because you can't report something that you don't have. I mean, if you have it by the 6th, or if you had it Friday, I would have reported it Friday. But because you don't even have it, you report it when you get it as quickly as you can, and just say, I just got this. Okay.
I think,
but they should be a student, so it shouldn't affect their check, because they should be on the student earned income exclusion. And I'm so excited to hear that they're on paid work experience. I'm just so excited. We love paid work experience. So, okay.
I think you answered this, but is it when money is received or when hours are worked or wages are earned? And what is the best way to report these wages to SSI?
Oh, those are great questions. Yeah. So you need a pay stub, you know, like I get my pay stub over the internet. right? I don't get a paper check anymore. It's direct deposited, but I get my pay stub emailed to me. So when I have all of my pay stubs that reflect the entire month, and there's usually overlap with months, but that's for Social Security to figure out. But when I have my February 1st through February 28th pay stubs, then I report to Social Security. I can call 211. I can fax in my pay stubs, but however you report them, there is no one way to report. Make sure they send you a receipt, because in case they don't enter, because they're human, they have a lot of cases, in case it gets lost in the Social Security black hole, that receipt, you keep it in a binder, because if they come back and say you did not report Sandy's February pay stub, and you'll say, yeah, here's my receipt. Yes, I did. Okay. But I'm so excited about paid work experience. But yeah, you can't report something you don't have, because they're not going to take a verbal report from you without having pay stubs in front of you. You don't want to guess what your wages are. So, and usually with SSI, when they find you eligible for SSI and you're not working, they just kind of send you a check based on the fact that you're not working. Or when you are working, when you start SSI or during the redetermination, let's say you're earning $600 a month and you're a student, the Student Earned Income Exclusion will automatically be calculated every month at $600 unless you tell them different. Okay, unless you tell them different. Or if you're earning $600 a month and you're not a student, they will reduce your SSI based on that amount unless you tell them different. That's why I always say it's important to let them know with any changes, because SSI only does their bookkeeping once a year. Unless you've called them and told them different, they're just going with what they know. Okay. All right, so this is a calculation sheet for earned income, okay, or for unearned income. So what is unearned income? Okay, unearned income could be that Social Security disability insurance, where your child went in and paid enough credits, and we're going to touch on that at the end of this training today. It could be their child support. If your child receives child support, Social Security will count 2/3 of it and put it right there under where I have the 225. They will put whatever 2/3 of that child support is there. And then they will do what this example says. So in this example, they have SSI, and we're going to just call it child support. Okay. So the child support is put under unearned income, and they minus 20. Remember, I said, pay attention to this slide where I say minus 85, because it says for SSI only. Because if they have any other unearned income, such as what I just discussed, they split up that 85 into 20 and 65. They split up the 85 into two different amounts, and that $20 is taken off of any unearned income, child support. So of the $225 of child support that they count, they're only going to count 205 of that. Step 2 is all about working. Well, this person's not working, so there's nothing to do in step 2. In step 3, we add the totals of step 1 and step 2. So we don't need to do step 3. We're just bringing that $205 along until step 4, where we subtract it from the most your SSI check can be. So somebody who is receiving 225, that's 2/3 of their child support, will only get an SSI check of $636. Now, I know we're running long on time, but I just want to say this really, really fast because it's important. If you're getting child support, please, please put it in a special needs trust. Put it in an ABLE account, because then there's nothing to put under unearned income. Your child is still getting the child support. It's just going into one of those protected resource areas so that he can still get, or she can still get $841. Not going to belabor that point because I still have some slides to get through, but you can ask me at the end if you want. So now we're going to look at a different situation because I want you to be familiar with this calculation sheet. Oh, and I had 2 questions. So I'm going to say this right now. You don't do this calculation sheet and report it to Social Security. This is how Social Security's computer looks at their information when they're entering all unearned and earned income into the computer. This is just a snapshot of what it is. You need to understand how Social Security processes this. So in the first case, there was no work, there was just a child support check. In this case, there's no unearned income. It's just SSI and work earnings. So in here, we don't do step 1 because there is no check. Step 2, we take their monthly gross earnings, $335, and we break it down here because it's kind of a reminder to us who do this every day. It's not 85. Was there something above? So we minus 20, we minus 65. So now of the 350, we're at 265. And they divide that by 2. Remember, minus 85 divided by 2. So of the $350 that this student grossed that month, they're only counting $132.50. And just like we did in the initial one, we're going to subtract that from $841. So their revised SSI check will be $708.50. And again, I do step 5. Their gross income is $350. Their revised SSI check is $708.50. So their usable income is $1,058.50. So that's how you do a calculation for someone who's just on SSI and has a job. Now, it is possible that somebody who's on child support gets a job. So now we're going to use all 4 steps. And I'm not going to go through this, but it's the same thing. What is the child support? Minus 20. What is the gross wages? Minus 65, divide by 2. On step 3, we add those 2 sums together, the 205 and the 199, and we take that total of 404 and subtract it from 841. And the revised SSI check is 437. And we do the same thing in step 5. What are the 3 pieces of money? What are the 3 pieces of money? English is my first language. What are the 3 checks that this person is getting? They're getting their child support, which is just 2/3. You can still add 1/3 to that. They're getting their earnings, and they're still getting an SSI check, and they still have Medicaid. So that's a calculation sheet for somebody who receives both unearned and has a job and is on SSI. So how is the student earned income exclusion applied? I'm not going to go through this slide. It's just a reminder of what we said, what the maximum is for a calendar year, what the maximum is for a month, making sure they're still a student. But this is what a calculation sheet looks like for a student, okay? And this is what I call the danger zone, because this is that student, there's got to be that student who goes out and earns the max monthly exclusion of $2,040. Right? There's nothing new here. There's still an unearned income check, whatever that is. Here I said it's SSDI. They've went out and earned enough to be eligible on their own record. It's still the minus 20. But when you get to step 2, we're going to put their gross wages of 2040 and look what happens. See that SEIE, student earned income exclusion. It's subtracted even before the minus 65 and divide by 2. Right? So when we get to step 3, we don't really need to do it because all we're bringing over is $180 because there is no countable earned income. So we subtract that $180 from the 841. So the revised SSI check is 661. We add up the 3 amounts, but look at that number. When I add up the $200 of DI, when I add up the $2,040 of earned income, and then the $661 of SSI, they have $2,901. Now, if we were in an audience, I would say, why is that a problem? They're over-resourced. They're over $2,000. So they need to spend that money. So it's never wise for a student to go out and earn that kind of money. The other thing too is when we have the student earned income exclusion, we need to remember that there's that calendar year cap of $8,230. So in step 6, I take the 2,000 or the $8,230 and I minus the $2,040 because that's what I've used so far this calendar year, right? That's how much I've used of that calendar year cap. So I'm going into the next month only having $6,190. You know, I can only do that for 4 months because at 4 months, I will only have $70 left of that annual cap to have student earned income exclusion. On the 6 months, it's over for the rest of that calendar year. Now, if your student only wants to work summers and weekends, this might be great. But if you want your student to have a month-by-month work experience, this does not work for you. And as a WIPA, as a benefits planner of many, many decades, we only promote earning that level of earnings if it is summer only, because they don't need it a calendar year. But again, I gave you this magic number of $685.83. So if they earn that, watch what happens. Here I said there's no unearned income, so that's 0. Step 2, I mean, the student earned income exclusion automatically deducts all of that gross earnings, so there's nothing countable. So they get the full 841. So now this person, it's still kind of dangerous and we're not done yet. You know, now they still have over $1,500. Well, that's not 2,000, but you know, you do this a couple months, it's really easy to get over 2,000. So keep your eye on that number. But also, if you take $685.83 times 12, it's under the annual cap. So they can just keep going with that and you don't have to worry a bit. Okay. So now I want your brain to think, not mine, because my brain is old. My brain is tired. So we're going to answer 3 questions about Hannah. Okay. So everybody go, I'm about to do math. All right. But it's easy math. I just want to make sure that you get all the concepts. So Hannah is 16. She's a full-time student and she works at Whataburger, eligible for student earned income exclusion. She starts January 2nd and she grosses $1,200 a month. How much of that student earned income? Here's the 3 questions, and I'm going to give you the answer so you don't really have to work this, but think it through in your head before I go to the next slide. How much of the student earned income exclusion annual cap has she used at the end of June? How much of the annual cap will she have left as she enters July? And then how much will she have left for August through December? Okay, $1,200 a month. June is the 6th month, so probably 1,200 times 6, right? All right, so let's look. And I don't want you to look at the calculation. This is just the calculation. I want you to look down under where it starts 1,200, my step 6. So at $1,200 for 6 months, January through June, she would earn $7,200. She will have, she will have used $7,200 of her annual cap. Remember, the annual cap is $8,230. So she is going into July with only $1,030 left of the annual cap. So she's not able to reduce the full $1,200. She can only reduce her gross earnings by $1,030. And then in August through December, she does not have access to the student earned income exclusion. Come January, if she's under the age of 22, she will still get it. Okay. I'm going to pause here because I'm going to do some final words, and then I'm just going to kind of ricochet some stuff to you that I really want you to know. Just maybe about 8 slides. So are there any questions on this? Any questions on student earned income exclusion?
There's none in the chat right now.
Oh my gosh, I'm afraid I've killed you guys, and it's Saturday. Please don't be in a coma with your eyes rolled back going, is she ever going to shut up? So some final words about student earned income exclusion. It's a wonderful work incentive. All the students should be using it who are on SSI. And as people who have sat through this now, even if you just share the PowerPoint, even if you're not feeling comfortable in explaining it yourself, just tell them that if they're a student in your school and they regularly attend and they go to work, Social Security will ignore $8,230 of their gross wages. And by the way, contact this girl who's a WIPA and she'll explain it more. But spread the word. Don't let anybody go into a paid work experience, a summer earn and learn, a job in the community. Don't let anybody who's a student do that without asking for student earned income exclusion, because it's very easy to get. Age 18 plus programs, they're kicking my butt, but I'm in the fight. I'm gonna get them done. So with that, I want to just kind of do a proceed with cautions. Not going to go into a lot of detail. It's just some of the stuff that I want you to be aware of. When you go to a zero SSI check, remember how that check kept changing as the work and unearned, all of that was calculated, and every time that SSI amount was different? Well, there is a way of keeping your benefits for free, your Medicaid, keeping your Medicaid for free, not your SSI. Until you have countable gross earnings of $45,355 a year. And I say countable earnings because they take into consideration the student earned income exclusion. They take into consideration all of those other work incentives. Remember the list of 4? They take into consideration those work incentives when determining if you can keep your Medicaid or not. You have to have went to a zero SSI check because you went to work. And when that happens, if that happens, please know you are not terminated from SSI. You can go right back on SSI should something happen to your job. You stop that job, you reduce your hours, whatever. As long as you're eligible for an SSI check, you can go right back on. So not only do you get to keep your Medicaid for free when your SSI check goes to zero, it puts you in a suspended status, not a terminated status. So you just need to notify Social Security, hey, my job at McDonald's kind of went south. I need my check back, and they will plug it into the computer and my check will start back up without reapplying. Is this automatic? No. Remember I said SSI gives you the money, HHSC gives you the Medicaid. SSI should plug in, or Social Security should plug into the computer system that Sandy now is at a zero check because of earnings. And so, and Medicaid should read that and say, okay, Sandy goes into what's called 1619B. That's the law that says I get to keep my Medicaid. But sometimes you have to reach out to Social Security and Medicaid, but that's where you get involved with the WIPA. We have contacts at Medicaid. We have taught Medicaid about 1619B, and there may be a month or 2 delay while they're figuring out their computer system, but they will go back and cover any Medicaid that they should have covered in the past if there is a hiccup in transitioning to keeping your Medicaid. If you're a high Medicaid user, if you have a child with significant support needs, that they have a lot of Medicaid for equipment and respite and attendant care and all the bells and whistles that Medicaid will pay for. If you say $45,000 doesn't even begin to touch what Medicaid pays for in a year, what they do is they will look at your Medicaid expenses and they will develop your own threshold. It'll be above the $45,000. We have a lady in the panhandle of Texas who has an individualized threshold of over $90,000 before she loses her insurance, before she loses her Medicaid. And this is all done in the local office. If your head is rolling, just remember the acronym WIPA, because once your child is on SSI, we're here to help. I'm kind of running out of time, so I'm going to go do this a little bit fast, but not too fast, because I don't want to keep you and insinuate myself into your Saturday longer than I need to. Remember, under the red umbrella, the entitlement programs. I talked about Social Security disability income when your student becomes eligible based on their work record because they've paid in enough FICA tax. I don't know why that 510 is in black. Anyhow, what Social Security says is if you are under, whoops, did I miss a slide? If they are under 24, they only need 6 credits. They only need 6. Remember I said 40 is kind of the max for adults? 60 or 6 credits, okay? So how do I get a credit? How do I build up to 6 credits? When I get my salary, right, my gross wages, every time my gross wages total $1,510, that's 1 credit. That doesn't mean my paycheck is $1,510, but an accumulation of my paychecks now add up to at least $1,510. That's a credit. And every time my paychecks, my continual paychecks add up to that amount, I get another credit, up to 4 a year. In a calendar year, January through December, they will never give me more than 4 credits. So a student working usually doesn't earn that much money. So their credits aren't going to come maybe that fast. But literally, when your student goes to work within 3 years, they will probably have their 6 credits, and you will get a letter saying that they are now eligible for Title II. Call your WIPA. It's not a bad thing. It is not a bad thing, because most students aren't going to earn a level that their Title II check is going to be so high that it kicks them off of SSI. They will have both. They will have a Title II check. They will have an SSI check. They will have Medicaid. And eventually, after a 2-year waiting period, they will have Medicare. So this isn't a bad thing. Living on SSI for the rest of your life isn't probably ideal. Let's get those work credits in, and let's see if we can get you on Title II. In closing, I want to say, always proceed with caution when you're dealing with Social Security. Try not to give them the originals unless they're going to hand them right back to you. Make sure you get a receipt so you're covering your bum. You know, get a binder so that you can keep track of them easily. Remember the resource limit. And remember the ways of adding money into different accounts that Social Security does not consider. Do your homework on ABLE. Do your homework on special needs trusts. You know, if your child really is looking at a career, you know, get with the WIPA program and let's talk about a PASS plan. It's not that hard. It's long, it's 14 pages, but it's kind of like Sandy wants to be a nurse. And here's what it's going to take for Sandy to be a nurse. If you're interested in PASS, all you have to do is Google SSA 545. That's the actual PASS document to give you more materials. It might be good to pull that up if you do decide to listen to my first session where I trained on PASS. I'm going to get with Carla because I think I would like to do just a PASS training. Okay. Remember, Social Security does everything 2 months in arrears. They're 60 days behind on what they do. Remember to apply by the 6th of the, or to report your wages by the 6th of the following month. There's always delays. There's just always delays. You cannot be surprised by that. And know that any decision up to applying and being denied is appealable. You can appeal any decision made by Social Security. You have that right. Here is the infamous slide that I wanted to share with you. Right there, number 1, the WIPA, Work Incentive Planning and Assistance. That is the program that's funded by Social Security. We go through an intensive 5-day training, 5-day all-day training with curriculum that Social Security in Baltimore has approved, and it's delivered by Virginia Commonwealth University all around the nation. And I was actually one of those national trainers for 12 years. But then my husband and I started raising his grandchildren, and so I could not travel the nation anymore. But we went around and we certified these WIPAs, and they have to take continuing credits just like many professionals in the field. And as I said, for Imagine, speaking on behalf of Imagine, my team has been with me. One lady has been with me since 2000. And I think the last person I hired was probably 12 years ago. So we've been around a long time. We know our stuff. We're connected in the community. So what you do is you go to that link, you type in your zip code, and that's who your WIPA is, and it'll give you contact information. If it says Imagine Enterprises, that's us. If it says Disability Services of Louisiana, I think is their name. I can't remember. They're out of New Orleans. They're very good too. I'm not saying they're not good. They are very, very good. And I'm happy to even do introductions to them for you on your behalf. But remember, your child has to be on a benefit and they have to be working or looking for work to qualify for this free service. Here's links to the sites where you go to, or again, you type in your zip code and it will tell you where your local Medicaid office is and where your local Social Security office is. Worst case scenario, if you got 8 hours to sit on the line, you can always call 211. And I say that tongue in cheek because they're very informative if you can get them on the line. So with that, I'm going to take any last passing questions or comments, and let's open it up.
There's a
I
couple
got about
things.
10 minutes if you guys do. So happy to
Okay.
answer any questions.
There's a couple things in the chat. A question goes back to the calculation slide that you talked about. Would a similar calculation, not including the student learned income exclusion, occur if my child does not qualify for SSI until they are 18, but they receive child support or work?
No, we only use that sheet when they're already on SSI. That's just a sheet to help us when we're working with people who are on SSI to figure out how Social Security will look at all of the checks coming in so we know how it impacts the SSI. But if your child is not on SSI yet, you don't need to track anything. But if you're applying to get your student on SSI, I would, you said you got child support. I would go hide that child support in ABLE or the Special Needs Trust. Please listen to my first session and it talks about that. Because you don't want them counting 2/3 of it to reduce their SSI check. You don't want them to do that. Okay, anything else?
Yeah, so it says working with Imagine Enterprises for WIPA, do we still work with TWC or do we choose one or the other?
Oh gosh, no. You want your circle of support to grow, not shrink. So let me tell you how we kind of fit into the scheme of things, okay? So you know the Education Service Center and you know your schools, right? They are there for your education and hopefully transition of your student. That's their job, okay? And they work with VR to make sure they are connected as transition age students so that they, when they graduate, get vocational support, finding a job, keeping a job, paying for supports necessary on a job. So VR has their role. And then there's WIPA. We work with everybody. If you work with somebody with a disability and you're trying to get them a job and they're worried about their benefits or their transition age youth, and you want the parents to hear this before they get inundated by your student needs a job, your student needs a job, we just help parents, beneficiaries, and other professionals such as VR and the school on training. There's probably professionals on this call to understand what happens to their benefits. We train professionals, you know, VR and the Education Service Center, school districts. We train them to recognize when someone's on a benefit and what to do before they put them into a paid work, okay? With parents and with the actual beneficiary, we go deeper, you know, because parents, whew, it's a big job. You know, applying, appealing, reapplying, how old are they? What does this mean? Where do I go? He's got to check. What does this mean? That's too much. That's too much. So with parents, not only do I go slow and go over it in detail and repeat myself probably more than you want me to, it's recorded so you can go back. And the PowerPoints are really wordy, not because I'm going to forget what I'm going to say, but I want you to know that it's a resource document for you to use later.
Okay, something else in the chat, Sandy. Is there a way to find a local WIPA or do you and your team serve the entire state?
Oh gosh, I wish we, you know, I keep telling Social Security, we should just like have the whole state, but no, they make us share. So you go back to this slide before and you should have access to the slides. If not, you might want to post that again. Why is my PowerPoint not going? Go up. There we go. Right there's the link, the number one link, www.ssa.gov/work/capital WIPA.html. When you go to that link, you're going to go to WIPA, and then it's going to ask you for your zip code, and then whoever you have will pop up. And I was thinking that there's too many of you on there because I have a list of all of the counties that we cover, but it's more than just the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But we cover a large amount, and I don't know what all of these are as far as where they're at, but we definitely cover Tarrant. We definitely cover, oh God, I'm trying to think of all of the different, we definitely covered Dallas. We definitely covered Denton. The one that struck me funny that we do not cover is McKinney, or Collin County. We do not cover Collin County. That is Louisiana. Okay.
And I dropped that link in the chat for everyone.
That would be great. That would be
I
great.
did.
You do, it's not like you go to this, you open this link and you type your zip code. It's not that easy. You still have to go to the WIPA because it's kind of an employment site. Do you want an employment network? Do you want VR? Do you want WIPA? Pick WIPA and then put in your zip code.
And I don't see anything else in the chat.
You guys are so kind because in 5 minutes I need to be walking out the door and heading towards Arlington to take my granddaughter to the doctor. You guys have been great. You guys have been really, really great. If you come up with any other questions, please send them to Carla. And the reason I'm not asking you to send them to me is because Carla's trying to batch them. You can send them to me and Carla, but we're trying to do at the end of the 6th series, having a big, long FAQ based on topic so that we can send it out to you guys also. So you have yet one more document. But please know, I and Imagine Enterprises strongly believe that your students and you as parents and professionals need to understand benefits, and we are happy to help you. If we can't help you because we're not allowed to, we will connect you with who will. So with that, I'm going to say thank you very much. Everybody come off camera so I can see your smiling faces because I made you be dark. There you guys are. Yay. It's so nice to see you guys. Hey, go have a weekend and forget about me, okay? Because you're going to have the PowerPoints. You can think about me later, okay? It's really nice to see all of you guys. You guys go have
Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Thank you for
so
joining
much.
us.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. I'll talk to you guys later too. Okay.
Bye-bye, Sandy.
Let Carla know we did good.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.